Long ago in a distant land, Kaido, the shape-shifting master of darkness, unleashed an unspeakable evil. But soon, the 9 scabbards, wielding 9 magic swords, stepped forth to oppose him. And then they all failed and got flung into the future, where his evil was law. But that's beside the point. The point is that have you ever noticed how much like Samurai Jack WANO is, like as a full concept? Because number one, we do have Kaido. Kaido, being a mythical Zoan, has a power of metamorphosis. He does change form. He does shapeshift. So he is like Aku in that way. And Aku many a time has turned into a dragon. One thing to point out about Kaido specifically as a Zoan is that he is in the small camp of Zoans that are more like Chomper, meaning he has points essentially, because we see he has different drunk states. So he is one of the more shape-shifty Zoans of Zoan shapeshifters. Then you have the samurai. The samurai were flung into the future from what we perceive as the past to correct the evil that is Kaido. And they were flung into the future, and not by a portal created by the antagonist, but by Lady Toki, as you know, via the use of the Toki Toki fruit or the Time fruit. So that did happen. Another very interesting thing is that you do have samurai. In both cases, there is a main samurai who does stand up to the threat, and in both cases the samurai fails. So in One Piece you have Oden, and then of course in Samurai Jack you have the titular character Samurai Jack. What's very interesting about the difference here is that is more so about Oden's haki imbuement into his blade rather than the blade itself. In both instances you can say the blade is important, kinda, because Oden's blade, as well as I believe all the samurai's blades, are Meito grade swords, so they aren't nonsense swords. They are actually good swords. But then Samurai Jack's sword was a holy weapon, so that's why it could actually do damage to Aku. But that's beside the point. The point is that samurai travel through time via, I guess you could say, magic. And now they have to correct the wrongs of the evildoer, of the shape-shifting master of darkness. What's also very interesting is that during the course of Wano's run, they do encounter, or rather, the group as a whole, I guess you could say, encounters the daughter of Kaido. If you don't know, in the 2017 revival of Samurai Jack that finished off the series, we were led privy to that Aku had several daughters, one of which being Ashi, who becomes a main character and is essentially going against her father. And then we have that with Yamato in One Piece. And Ashi did have the powers of Aku, so she too was a shapeshifter, much like how Yamato, much like Kaido, does have a mythical Zoan and is a shapeshifter. Her special situation in being a Zoan is a bit theoretical, but I will say this, because of that weird sash around her body when she's in both her full beast mode and her hybrid state, could suggest that she is close to awakening, much like how Gear 4th suggested that Luffy was close to awakening. That's a bit of a stretch, but when you consider that the animal, the mythical creature that Yamato is supposed to be, is a guardian of Wano, and seeing as how during the whole course of the Wano arc, she was indeed protecting Wano, one could say that she was fulfilling the purpose of the myth that brought the fruit into existence in the first place. So yeah, she could be close to awakening. Maybe she just needs another push. But that's just a very interesting thing to point out. So yes, Ashi and Yamato both were daughters of the main antagonist, and they both were shapeshifters, and they both have powers very similar to their respective fathers, because Yamato was ice, Kaido was fire. I believe even at one point during their clash, Yamato countered Kaido's Boro breath with ice breath. And then, of course, too, she can use all of his techniques. She has the same weapon. She wields a club just like her father, etc., etc. Same thing with Ashi. Ashi has all the powers of Aku, and two clash with Aku during the climax of Samurai Jack. So there you go. What's also really kind of interesting, kind of unique, is that Aku and Kaido have employed a bunch of Freakazoids into their army. With Aku, for the most part, it was just like a bunch of weird robots. And then with Kaido, he too specialized in a particular type of subordinate, but in his case, they were smile users. So with a smile user, if they're successful, they turn to a weird Freakazoid Zoan-like thing, right? They're a weird animal man. So in a sense, you could say both antagonists specialized in a particular type of henchman, of which were all deemed to be fodder anyway, but that's beside the point. The point is they have a particular taste in henchmen. Another really interesting thing is that technically both of them are defeated by warriors in white. Samurai Jack, iconic for always wearing white. That's his like main attire. And then Luffy in Gear 5th becomes white. His clothing and his hair all become white. So that's another connection. Another really interesting connection is that I guess you could say the child of each antagonist led to their downfall. Aku more directly, because Aku's daughter Ashi opened a portal back into the past. With Yamato, I could say Yamato basically held Kaido off and protected Momo so that he could be matured by Shinobu and then save Onigashima from actually falling on top of Wano. So in a sense, you could say both did lead to the downfall of their respective fathers, but it's a little touch and go. Another interesting thing is that when we first see Yamato, she is wearing a Hanya mask. A Hanya mask is said to represent a jealous female demon, and depending on the play and the level of jealousy depends on what the mask looks like. What's so interesting about this particular mask is that it kind of resembles Aku's face a little bit. Not too sure of that, even though Aku is mostly portrayed as male, though he did turn into a woman at one time. But yeah, it's supposed to be for female demons, but yeah, Aku's face looks like that. It does represent Yamato in a very interesting way, because you could say in one half, she is jealous that she cannot go out to sea and be more like Odin, or it could be that she is jealous that she can't be Odin in general. But yeah, that's a very interesting connection. And even though Ashi doesn't get a similar mask as an assassin of Aku, she does wear a mask. It's not a Hanya mask. It seems like a mask that's supposed to represent that of a geisha's face of some sort, but that's another interesting comparison. And it is quite an interesting comparison too on the topic of clothing, when you consider that when we are formally introduced to Yamato, she does have a big clothing change. She takes off the mask and she rips the sleeves off her kimono, and thus it gives us our Yamato design that we'll be seeing for the rest of the time of Wano. Whereas with Ashi, she is covered in like a black tar when you first meet her in the show, and then over the course of the show, she washes the tar off, and then she wears a variety of outfits until the show's end. So yeah. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching.